Everyone knows that beekeeping can culminate in a honey harvest, but have you ever wondered how beekeepers extract that rich golden honey from the honeycomb to be placed in jars like this? Hi, I'm Tanya from Lovely Greens, and in this video I'll show you my own process for extracting honey, from hive to comb to honey shed, and ultimately to you. Honeybees are the only bees that produce honey, and that's because they're actually the only bees that stay active all year round, including the leaner days of winter. Now, honeybees produce honey between spring and autumn, and each bee in its entire lifetime will produce only about 1 teaspoon of honey. Sometimes beekeepers take off honey several points throughout the season, but personally, I prefer to take it off just in the autumn, and that has to do with the climate here on the Isle of Man. Sometimes the summers can be wet, rainy, and cold, and during those times, bees find it difficult to make honey, so they need all the food they can get. Once I take honeycomb off of my hives, I use 5 main steps in order to extract the honey from the honeycomb. The first is uncapping the honeycomb itself, then I spin the honey out, filter it, then I allow the honey to settle for a couple of days, and then finally I bottle the honey up. And at that point, it's ready for consumption. Honeycomb is composed of individual cells that honeybees fill with honey and then cover with a layer of beeswax that we call a capping. When it's time to extract honey, we beekeepers have to remove this beeswax in order to get to the honey underneath. Traditionally, a hot knife has been used, but it's far better to use an uncapping comb like I'm using in the video. And the reason for that is that it just removes the top layer of beeswax and it preserves the integrity of the beeswax structure underneath. Now, what that means is that I can put this frame back onto the hive afterwards and the bees can continue to use it and fill it with even more honey. You'll also notice that I'm putting the cappings into a metal bowl. I'll be setting that aside and then I will process that and use it in my Manx Beeswax beauty products. Honey is sticky stuff. So even once the cappings have been removed, you still have to apply a certain amount of force to get the honey out of the comb. Beekeepers use what is called an extractor for this job, and they come either hand-powered or electric. Now what it does is it spins the frames around inside, the honey is then thrown out, and it collects at the bottom of the drum. There's a tap at the base of the extractor as well, so the honey is pulled out that way. The extractor that I'm using for this video is owned by a friend of mine, and it can take 9 shallow frames. It also takes only about 5 minutes to extract the honey. Now once the extractor has done its job, the comb is pretty much cleaned out of honey, and you can see that the beeswax structure is still very much intact. The honey at this point is also filled with little bits of beeswax left over from that combing process. When you release it from the extractor, you'll want to filter it first. Actually, filter it a couple of times if you can. The reserved beeswax can be used in candles and other crafts, and I like to use it in my handmade beauty products. Despite using such a high-tech extractor, I use a relatively basic method for allowing my honey to settle and then bottle it up. First, I allow the honey to settle in the pails for 2 days. This gives a chance for any bits of beeswax to form a layer at the top of the honey, and this is easily removed by using a metal spoon. The other option for this step is to use what is called a honey tank, and it's essentially a tank that allows the honey to settle within, and it has a tap at the bottom that allows easy filling of honey jars. Once I've removed that layer of beeswax from the surface of the honey, I use a simple ladle to fill sterilized jars. I then seal the jars with equally sterilized lids. Surprisingly, honey is one of the only foods that we have that doesn't have a real shelf life. Once it's sealed in a sterilized container, it can last literally hundreds of years, if not thousands. In fact, archaeologists have found honey in Egyptian tombs that would still be considered edible. And there you have it. Rich, golden, raw honey, just perfect for spooning onto toast, yogurt, or directly into your mouth. Lovely Greens TV has a range of other DIY tutorials, including these ones on how to build a strawberry pellet planter, how to make an all-natural healing balm for eczema and psoriasis, and how to crystallize edible flowers for use on cakes and desserts. Thank you very much for watching, and make sure to subscribe to Lovely Greens TV to get the latest on any new videos that are uploaded. Bye for now.